now like to invite Dr. Gerald Chan, Non-Executive Director of Hang Lung Group Limited, to come up to the stage to make some closing remarks. Dr. Chan, please.
Thank you. What a happy occasion. Don't you all feel fantastic that we could be here witnessing the hard work and the great results that these young people have achieved? I find no greater joy than to see the young generation excel. So first of all congratulations go to all the students. You all have worked so hard, and whether you won today or not, you are a winner. Now, I'd like to make a few closing remarks concerning the Hang Lung Math Award. First of all, I'd like to talk about schools. Last year, or 2 years ago, I talked about the democratization of excellence. Absent from the roster of finalists were the so-called Ming Hao. I don't know how you say that in English. But of course, for us, the old-timers, you know, the classical famous schools, the name brands, you know, the Kings, the Queens, the St. Paul's, the DBS, the DGS, I'm afraid none of them are represented here. All right, so go back and talk to your principal. Well, I like to say that I don't know what these schools are on to now. Maybe they are too busy training students to be well-rounded individuals. And I myself, you know, if you heard me talk about Morningside College, you know I'm a great advocate that the young people should be trained in a way that they become well-rounded. But I must say, at the most basic level, a school is about scholarship. It is an academy. It is a place where scholarship is valued, where knowledge is transmitted from one generation to the next. Whatever the agenda of the schools may be, and that may evolve with time, I must say, at the very basic level, a school is about scholarship. And I hope that we will never lose sight of this. As much as we are curricular reform, as much as we try to bring the young people up, you know, to be suitable to meet the challenges that they will face, we must not lose sight that at the very basic level, a school is about scholarship. We must highly value scholarship. And I hope all the students would take away from this that scholarship is a reward in itself. Yes, as Professor Murli says, it is hard work, but the reward is in the scholarship that you have achieved. By scholarship, you know, I don't mean a bursary grant. I mean your scholarly achievement. So, the way we have done the Hang Lung Math Award, it is not about solving problems. We don't have a prescribed set of problems and we ask the students to come and give them so many minutes and they will solve the problem. It is not about that. Rather, it is about them or they coming up with a problem. How do they come up with a problem? You know, as I listened to some of the sessions yesterday where the students did their oral defense, I wonder, gosh, you know, how did this kid come up with this topic? And I must say, I marvel at their curiosity and their intellectual prowess to be able to come up with those topics. So first of all, these students have to come up with their own question. Now, as I go through life, it is all too apparent to me that what is most important is not the answer to the question, but what questions do you ask? So the format of the Hang Lung Math Award is that the students must come up with a question. And I must say at the end, some of the questions, of course, are more applied. Some of them are purely, in the sense of pure math. But I must say the common thread is that all these students come to the question because of a curiosity. Now, I'm a big proponent of curiosity-driven scientific research. We must not be so pragmatic that science is made a handmaiden of companies, of business, of even economies or national development. There must be, at the most basic level, pure curiosity-driven research, what we otherwise would call blue sky research. It serves no other purpose except to gratify your curiosity. Now, I sat at the Newton table. I must say Newton must have been a very curious person. Not because of the math that he wrote, and very few people know this. He was very curious about biblical prophecy. He wrote volumes about the prophecies in the book of Daniel, in the Bible, in the Old Testament. Now, to what purpose is all this work of studying biblical prophecy? Whatever it is, I can only say Newton must have been a very curious person who spent a lot of time reading the Bible or whatever historical text that he had read to come up with, to try to put the numbers together, in the biblical prophecy. In fact, if you go to Amazon, you can buy books by Isaac Newton on biblical prophecy. And you see he wrote volumes. I can only say that is curiosity. And I would encourage all of you students to nurture your curiosity. Not everything has to have a purpose in the utilitarian sense. What is useful someday, as Professor Yao said, may in the present appear to be totally useless. So I'm here to celebrate the useless. I'm here to celebrate curiosity and encourage you students not to be afraid to pursue your curiosity. Something may hit your fancy. It may seem to be so remote, and even your parents may say, "Oh, what's the use of studying that?" Well, I hope all the parents will learn to keep their mouth shut and let the young people indulge in their curiosity. Wherever that leads you, I don't know, only God knows, but you will be gratified by your curiosity being satiated. That, to me, is what drives science. And I would encourage all of you students never to forget that. Now, along this line of the democratization of excellence, it has become apparent to me that it is no longer which school that matters, but rather what matters is which teacher. And here I am to celebrate the teachers. Whatever school you may teach in, I know in every school there are good students. Yesterday I was with Steve, who runs the, what do you call that, the Academy of... the Hong Kong Academy for Gifted Education. Steve told me that research shows that, 50% of the gifted students are underachievers. Maybe they're just too gifted and they're bored. It is entirely possible. I will tell you that Professor Yao was not much of a student, were you, Yao? Until, the summer between your, first or second year at Chinese U, that you sort of blossom. But until then, he was not much of a student. If you were to ask his teachers, maybe, never thought that guy would be a field medalist. It's the teachers. And whatever students that you have to work with, bring out the best of them. Nurture them, that they too will blossom. And everyone can blossom. I do not believe that society should be so stratified and so ossified in its class structure. And in fact, academics or studying is one way of achieving social mobility that transcends any social structure which may pose an obstacle. I had dinner last night with the judges. One of them, Professor Mock from Hong Kong U, he and I went to the same high school. And I asked him, who taught you math? He's now a professor of mathematics at Hong Kong U. And he told me it was this lady. It was the same lady that taught me math. And to this day, I remember the inspiration that she put in all of us. We aspire to be mathematicians, or we aspire to excel in math, whether we become mathematicians or not. But she was an inspiration. And I do believe all the teachers can be such inspirations to the young people. To all of you teachers, we have handed the future of our society. Yours is not just a job. You are the caretaker. You are those that will shape the future of our society by the students that you will teach. So first of all, I hope that you too, all of you teachers, will yourself be scholars, in the sense that you will delight in scholarship. And it's for this reason that part of the award goes to the teacher, and the Chinese University will award a scholarship in the sense of a bursary grant for all the teachers of the winning teams so that they can do advanced studies. It is only when you yourself delight in scholarship that you will transmit to your students that delight in scholarship. I hope you will cultivate a rich life of the mind by your further studies and by your teaching. Now, finally, let me say a few words about society at large. When I was young, growing up in Hong Kong, the role models that we had were to a large extent scientists. It wasn't that long ago that T.D. Lee and C.N. Yang had won the Nobel Prize in physics. And we all thought, wow, a Chinese could win a Nobel Prize in physics. It was a great inspiration to several generations of young people of Chinese descent. Our idols were not singers, were not the movie stars, not the stock market operators, not the real estate speculators. Our idols, people from whom we derive inspiration, they were scientists. I lament that today, in the society and in Hong Kong, such role models are all too absent. And I am desperately trying, myself, in whatever way I can, to bring the scientists in this society to the foreground, so that as a society, we will revere the scientists and so influence the younger generation that they would highly regard a career in science and would put in the hard work to pursue a career in science. I recently I was in London a week ago. I talked to the writer, the science writer of The Times in London. Now, this young man graduated with a degree in history from Oxford. He's now the science writer for The Times. And he initiated a supplement every Thursday, the first Thursday of the month, called Eureka, which is a magazine that comes out with the Times. And he told me that every month, the first Thursday of the month that the magazine comes out, the circulation of the newspaper shoots up by 15,000. Now, I was shocked. You think in any of the Hong Kong newspapers today, if there was a supplement on science, that the circulation will go up? I think if there was a supplement about some starlets, yes, the circulation will go up. But science? And serious science? To me, that is a society that venerates science. And I long to see that science would even take a more prominent place in popular culture in Hong Kong. That the newspapers are not just full of, other stuff. Even the science in the Hong Kong newspapers, I'm sad to say, so much of it is what I would call pseudoscience. If you talk about serious science here, I don't think there'll be much of an audience. I do believe, ladies and gentlemen, that we are all stakeholders in this. Represented here today, we have government, we have the private sector, we have the education sector. I do believe all of us here are stakeholders. If we are stakeholders in the future of Hong Kong, we are stakeholders to promote science. We should never think that science is just, it's the universities. It's Tony Chan. UST, that's what science is about. No. I do hope all of us would consider ourselves stakeholders, that we have a part in promoting science in this society. Starting with government, as I always do whenever I have this pulpit, to call on government to allocate more funding to support science. But the private sector should not shirk its responsibility. And Hang Lung, in doing this math award, is to take the lead and set an example that even the private sector should do its part and contribute to society in the way of promoting science. Finally, the universities. I'm afraid that whenever the public sector budget is tight, the university or the research budget gets cut. It's the easiest one. Universities are a very special asset to any society. And we in Hong Kong are fortunate, to have some great universities here. Over the years, some of the universities in Hong Kong have become, in their own right, great universities, even in a world-class sense. And I hope all of us would think of the universities, consider ourselves a part of the universities, and do our part to support the universities. I said a few years ago, when we endow a professorship in chemical biology at Hong Kong U, and that professor is sitting here today, right there, the Morningside Professor of Chemical Biology at Hong Kong U. There was a ceremony held at Hong Kong U to celebrate the endowment of these professorships, and there were 20-some such professorships endowed. But ours was the only one in the natural sciences. There were many professorships endowed in business, in law. Ladies and gentlemen, the business schools here don't need any more money. They are perfectly fine, and they are perfectly self-sufficient. All they need is to give a few more executive MBA courses, and they will generate their operating budget. But the science faculties, they're quite impoverished. I call on the private sector to do our part to support the science faculties in all the universities in Hong Kong. And I don't mean just the medical sciences, I mean the useless sciences like mathematics, or physics, or astronomy. I hope all of us would consider ourselves as stakeholders for the future of Hong Kong, to be a supporter of science. Let the Hang Lung Math Award serve as an example, as an inspiration, and I call on all of you to join in and do more, and to give Hong Kong a bright future in science. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen, for those inspirational words.